Welcome to the Sexual Wellness Podcast, real-life conversations with industry experts on modern sexuality and how to live a happy, healthy, turned-on life. I'm your host, Laura Allen, founder of New Zealand's leading sexual wellness store and holistic sex, love, and life coach, passionately guiding women to expand their pleasure in and outside the bedroom. Hey, beautiful people, welcome back to the Sexual Wellness Podcast. I am finally home. Home, sweet home. You know, one of the things that I love about going away on holiday is actually coming home and realizing how much I love my life and how happy I am in my home environment and all of the things that I missed and adore and how I've set up my life here and so on and so forth. I feel like, holidays, we kind of tend to run away from our reality, and then we come home and there's that whole collective story about, back into the daily grind and la 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 la. But you know what? Actually, it doesn't have to be like that. It's your life and you can make it whatever you want. So if you're finding yourself not enjoying what you're doing in the day-to-day, if you're finding yourself not loving what you're doing with your life and with your time, then I really want to invite you to just run a little self-inquiry about that. And how can you bring more pleasure into your life? Is it your home environment? Is it your community? Is it the way that you have a relationship with social media? Is it your job? Is it the way that you treat and nourish your body? What is it about your current state that is making you wanting to escape and go away on all these holidays and then feel this depletion when you come home? When you really start to live a turned on life, and when you really start to live in alignment with yourself and living from a place of love and an integrity with yourself, you just start to enjoy life. You still have bad days. You still go through periods of turmoil and all of that stuff. But at the end of the day, you're grounded in gratitude. And you're grounded in a sense of contentness. And it feels calm and peaceful. And, while always, the grass is always better on the other side and so on and so forth, what is actually true is what you're doing every day. And that is what feels good. So I am deep in that right now. I am completely integrating my adventure with my beautiful partner and my beautiful dog. It was so incredible. I had many epiphanies about relationships, and I had many big processes in my own personal life, and it was just so beautiful and timely, and I'm so excited about the future. So yes, it's all very exciting. So basically, I'm fully back now. I know I said that last week, but I sort of came online for a little bit and then disappeared off into Kiwi burn land, which we're going to talk about in this podcast. And now I'm fully back. I am in reliable Wi-Fi every single day, which is massive for me. So just a little plug on what's coming up. We've got Queendom, gals, queens. If you are wanting to join Queendom, or if you're even curious about it, I highly recommend that you get in touch because it is nearly half full. And it's going to sell out. So definitely just inquire if you've got questions. If you're sort of on the fence, just come and have a chat with me and figure out if it's really right for you and, what you might be needing. But honestly, the crew of women that we've got in there already are so epic. I am so stoked and proud of the women who come to do this work because they're all beautiful. They're all super, just attention to their lives and wanting to get the most juice out of their life. And it's just such a nourishing, beautiful group and environment to be a part of. Even myself as a facilitator found it deeply expansive just to be around so many beautiful women all journeying together and stepping more into their radiance, more into their femininity, more into their power. Damn, honestly, the results were epic. And you know what? We had a really good time doing it. heaps of fun, heaps of laugh, lots of play. And yeah, for me, that's what I want my work to be about. I want it to be in the light. So if you're keen, just get in touch. And yeah, I'd really love to chat with you. Also, my 1-1 coaching books are open. I've got a couple of spots left in February. I don't like to take on too many 1-1 clients because, yeah, I just like to make sure that I've got enough energy for everybody. So, yeah, there's only a couple of spots left for Feb, but they're 3-month coaching packages, and just get in touch if you are curious. Okay, enough of the plugs. Thank you for listening. Now we're going to get stuck into the podcast. So this podcast is all about sexual liberation on your own terms. And what has sparked this episode is my experience at Kiwi Burn. So if you don't know what Kiwi Burn is, that's totally fine. I'm sure you've heard of the Burning Man Festival, which is over in the States. And, it goes for a week. It's all about gift economy. They've got the principles, and it's really just like a social experiment, and it can get pretty wild. And so basically, Burning Man has spawned out around the world, and they have regional burns. So there's Kiwi Burn, there's Africa Burn, there's like Burning Seed. There's like all over the world, there's like these small regional burn festivals. And gosh, where to even start with Kiwi Burn? You know, what I really want to say and what I really want to inspire you with is actually just my deep sense of pride within myself and within my own boundaries. And so the good thing about doing this work in sexuality, and the good thing about like really understanding yourself and your intimately and your intimacy needs, and like, it's one thing to start eating good food, and it's one thing to, look after your mental health, and it's one thing to do fitness and like be like all general like wellness, like eating all of the kale in the world, your community is on point, blah, 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 blah. But if you're still like completely in the dark about your sexuality and your pleasure and the like lower chakra centers of your body, then there's going to be a missing piece to the puzzle. I'm not saying that sexuality is everything, but there is a lot in there. And due to my kind of unwavering dedication and devotion to myself and to this work over the last 5 years, teaching it, practicing it myself, and being it, I have developed the most profoundly beautiful relationship to my boundaries and to my sense of self, and my sexual expression within my own sexual liberation is just awesome. And you go to a festival like Kiwi Burn where there's so much nudity, there's sex everywhere, there's orgies, there's kink parties, there's threesomes, there's foursomes, there's coupled sex, everything. I thought I'd seen it all, but yeah, now I've like seen even more than I almost wanted to see. And I think the thing is with environments like that is it can kind of become the normal. You go into a container, into a space for a long period of time. Kiwi Burn is 5 days, and it sort of becomes the normal. And there can be this like collective persuasion of how we should or shouldn't be performing when it comes to our sexual liberation. And so when you are surrounded by a group of women who are naked and really open and pursuing sex in that way, which is totally awesome and fine, by the way, but you personally yourself are in a different state and like not actually wanting that or needing that, it can be really challenging and confusing at times to feel like, oh, perhaps I should be like that, because that is what being open and sexually free and all of the, and like a sexual being is all about, and having to prove ourselves sexually when actually what our bodies is telling us is something completely different. And so for me and for my personal experience, it was just so validating, I've got to say, to, walk around a festival where nudity is everywhere and feel like, actually, I want to have a top on and I want to have a skirt on because my body is sexual and it's exclusive and it's special. And for me, my sexual liberation is about, having privacy and having exclusivity and only sharing these really sacred parts of myself with people who I know deeply and love and trust. That is what my personal version, that's in the, there is no right or wrong here, but that is just what feels good to me in my body. And so therefore I can go out into these festivals and I can go out and be as wild as I want to, but also know exactly when I'm out of integrity and when I need to pull it back in, because I know what my truth is and I know how I want to be expressed, and I don't feel bad about that. I don't get FOMO. I don't have comparisonitis. I don't need to pretend to be anything else. I don't need to pretend to be more sexually liberated to impress a person. I don't need to pretend to be more, open and free and into polyamory to prove to, my peers and my community and, someone who I've got a crush on that I'm, this amazingly evolved spiritual sexual woman. No. I love my conservative side. I love the fact that I take time to warm to people, and it was just such a beautiful acknowledgement of myself and how far I've come and how graceful I can navigate my world now within my boundaries and within my truth of sexual liberation. So what I'm going to be going through in this podcast is a couple of pointers on how you can get there too. Because, when when you're out in the club, or when you're first starting to explore sexuality, and when you're first starting to learn about tantra, or you're going to your first sexuality retreat, or you're starting to go to tantric meditations and group environments, or it's all kind of new and you're still figuring these things out about yourself, there are some really important pointers that you can implement into your life straight away to really enhance your sense of safety within and trust within yourself and within your body, so that you can actually go into this world and navigate it safely with real consent and real boundaries. Because sometimes, when you're at Kiwi Burn and, you're 4 days into a festival, it's midnight, you're not sober anymore, and you are also in an environment where there's a lot of eros going around. Eros is erotic energy. So when you turned on, you're aroused because there's all of this sexual activity and all of this lusty, feminine and masculine and penetrative vibes happening around you. It is so easy to get drunk on that, like alcohol. Eros, you can get drunk on eros just like you get drunk on alcohol. And sometimes without us knowing it, we can actually start to bend and warp our non-negotiable boundaries because we're under the influence, and then we still wake up the next day feeling that kind of pit in our stomach that just feels like, oh, actually I didn't want to do that. I feel like maybe a bit of a boundary was crossed, and and we can really sort of spiral out of control and go into self-blame, and it's not good. It's bad. It can get bad. So basically I'm going to give to you some pointers on how to avoid that kind of behavior from happening. So the first one is, you do not have to be having sex at all to be sexually liberated. Sex, intimacy, relationships with other people is not a measurement tool of your sexual liberation. what you wear when you go to parties or when you go to play parties. It's like, oh, am I not naked enough? Like if I am fully clothed, does that mean that I'm not sexually liberated? No, it doesn't. You don't have to be engaging in any sexual activity to be a sexually liberated woman, man, person. Your sexual liberation is yours, and what matters the most is your ability to tune in to what is true for you at any given time and act from a place of integrity, honoring your desires and honoring your yes and honoring your no. It's sexual liberation is about knowing that you have the choice and exercising that freedom of choice at any given time. You do not need to prove to anyone. There is no template of what sexual liberation should look like at all. You can be celibate for years and still be deeply, deeply turned on and extremely sexually liberated. Okay, so just to reinforce that, the amount of times that you are having sex with your partner, the amount of times that you're having sex with yourself, the amount of times that you are engaging in sexual intimacy, romantic intimacy, sensuality, all of that kind of stuff is not a measurement tool of your sexual liberation. Okay? Your sexual liberation is about your freedom to choose how you want to be sexually expressed at any given time. Cool. The next point I wanted to make to you is to take your time and go at your own pace. So like exploring sexuality and like developing a sense of self and really understanding what our needs are when it comes to romantic intimacy takes time. It really does take time. And then to make things even more kind of complicated is that we grow and evolve over time. So the structures and procedures and rituals that we put in place in the beginning that were really working for us then, after a couple of years, may no longer be serving and need to be changed again. So the important thing to remember is that there is no rush here. Say, I'm just going to use Kiwi Burn as like an ongoing example here because it's like what's on top. But like, say you just went to Kiwi Burn and you were like, oh my God, I feel FOMO because I didn't pursue that threesome opportunity that came to me. And, you're kind of having a bit of like self-doubt or regret about that. But actually, when you really tune in deep down, you know that you've done the right thing because you honored your boundaries and you honored your limits at that time. And you don't actually need to push past any boundaries when it comes to expanding your sexuality. You don't need to push any boundaries when it comes to stepping into sexual liberation. You don't need to like push yourself over any edges. You don't need to like make yourself feel uncomfortable. You don't need to put yourself through pain and suffering to reach sexual liberation. Sexual liberation will come naturally over time and in your own pace when you are ready. And you can be as slow ass as you want. And you know what? There is always going to be another Kiwi Burn. Kiwi Burn's going to be happening next year. Plenty more opportunities in the sea. There's going to be a decompression party next week. Plenty more opportunities in the sea. There are play parties, there are orgies, this stuff happens all the time. So if in the moment, if it's not a full body yes, just relax and surrender and trust that is what is right for you right now. And go into an experience that feels edgy and new and expansive when it feels good. When it feels like a yes, not when it feels like, oh, I should be doing this because I might not have another opportunity and I need to be sexually liberated and I need to do this to prove that I'm open and sexy and blah, 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 and da, 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 da. No, just slow it down because it will happen naturally. And that is where the pleasure is, not from the force, but from the flow. So relax and surrender and trust that and trust yourself. Go at your own pace. There is no hurry. There is no race to the finish line of sexual liberation, okay? It is just a journey, and it's about enjoying it and loving where you're at right now. Cool. So the next point I wanted to bring to you is develop your values and your boundaries first. So again, it's like when we're first kind of really diving into our sexuality, our sexual health, how we want to be treated in relationships, not only romantically, but with our friends and with our family and in a work environment. It's super important that we actually take the time to stop and think about what our values are. Because you can't actually have boundaries if you don't know what you're standing for. Values are really, really important. Like, what are your needs in relationship? What are your core values in relationship? Super important. Yet we just kind of like flew through life, with blindfolds on, thinking, yeah, this is cool, this is all just going to work out just fine. And it does until a certain point, and then all of a sudden, boosh, you've got clashing values, and you're trying to set boundaries, but you don't really know what you're doing, and you're sort of on this path that isn't fully in alignment with you because you haven't actually stopped and taken the time to figure out what it is that you even want. So that's a really important first step. So before you start jump diving and doing like triple backflips into like this gigantic womb of sexuality and open relating and like the extremities of like fucking, for lack of a better word, I really want to encourage you to just take some beautiful time out for yourself and to understand what it is that you truly want and what you think you might need to get that. Because so often, what we think we need is not actually what we need. So yeah, really like get down to the bottom about what your core values are. And I'll give you a little bit of an example. So like for me, I value monogamy. And again, this is just me. There's going to be plenty of people out there who are different. And I love that. And again, it's about everyone having the freedom to choose what is truly right for them. And the reason why I value monogamy is like because when it comes to penetration, sharing my energy, sharing my body with another human, to me it just feels so special and so sacred. And I just personally like to keep that energy within that bubble. It's actually got nothing to do with jealousy or like, I don't know what other things would come into play. Like it's pure, like the reason why I value monogamy is purely because I like to keep my energy and I like to keep my body exclusive between one person. And like when my heart is full and in love and safe, it's actually it's like completely against the grain for me to even want to be with other people. And so it's almost not even a conscious decision. It's like my body, my heart and my soul is purely monogamous. And I actually feel like I can barely help that. And so for me, that is why I value that, because it feels right within my body. I feel expansive. I feel like my heart is safe. I feel like I can grow and expand and learn about myself and go deep through pleasure and through love and through intimacy and through that exclusivity. And that's just what I value. And so yeah, the reason why I wanted to tell you that is because it's really important to get down to like what your unique values are when it comes to how you want to have sex and how you want to be relating to other people, so that when you do go out into these environments, you aren't persuaded in a sort of vulnerable space of not knowing anything about it or not knowing what you truly want. You know, it's like, it's especially in the Tantra space, honestly, it's like there are so many ideas out there about how we should be living a tantric life, when actually it's really important that you come back to your heart and back to yourself and ask yourself, like, is this actually aligned for me? Is this actually true for me and how I want to live my life? You know, think about who you're being influenced by. Think about those people like your Tantra teachers or your sexuality influencers, and like look at them, look at their lives, look at their friendship circles, look at how they spend their time, look at how they earn money, look at how they nourish their bodies. Are they living, breathing expanders and influencers for you in a holistic sense? Or are they just sort of are you just kind of curious about their lifestyle? And you know, just what I'm really trying to say here is to be really careful with who you let influence you and your decisions and your values, and always bring it back to yourself. And when you're doing any kind of research about choosing a workshop, choosing a teacher, choosing a coach, it's really important that you actually get a firm grip on who they are on a personal level, not just on their Instagram or like through their website and the face that they put up into the world. Really take your time to get to know who you're letting influence your life. And it's the same when you go to like events and in your friendship circles. I mean, it's like you are the makeup of the 5 people closest to you. And so your values and the way that you see the world and the pair of goggles that you have on are going to be influenced by those around you. So if you're feeling out of alignment, if you're feeling like you're going against the grain, if you're feeling like you're trying to reach something or something's missing and you just can't quite put your finger on it, then it's time to just really take a look at your surroundings and figure out what is actually true for you. And if it's not, then like make the decision on how you can sort of set some boundaries up, or how you can bring some new influences in your life that actually role model the lifestyle and the sexual liberation and the career and the money and the health and the fitness and all of the things that actually really do light you up, that are in alignment with your true values. And you will feel it in your body, because when you start to identify them, your body feels like calm, peaceful, relaxed, open. Yes, like that feels good. That's what I want. That's what I want to embody into my life. That's what it feels like. When it's not in alignment for you, you'll feel contracted, constricted, you'll feel pain, you'll feel scared, you know, there'll be fear and there'll be questions and confusion and the kind of messiness and grey, murky cloud that comes with that. So just be really aware of your body's responses when it comes to understanding what you want to allow and what you want to welcome and what you want to create your life with. Okay? So the next point is practice forward thinking and establish your non-negotiables. So again, I'm going to kind of use like Kiwi burn as an example here. So you want to think about like aftercare. So if you are going to be going into an orgy or a temple night, a play space, and for those of you who are listening who don't really know what I mean by those things, it's really just like it's a confined container where, you know, there is a lot of education about consent and boundaries and, you know, what the limitations of the space is. And from there, it's a free space for you to exercise your sexual expression or your radical self-expression within that space, as long as it's consenting to everyone. So if you want to go and watch a kink party, if you want to go and, be a unicorn, it's kind of like, I guess, a safe space for those things to happen. And so it's really important to think about aftercare and like practice forward thinking. It's like, how can I look after myself so that after this experience, I know that I'm going to get my needs met. So if you are someone who, after you have physical intercourse and penetration, you know that you need lots of like touch and intimacy and connection with your lover, then how are you going to get that in this space? Or how are you going to create an environment for yourself so that you still feel looked after and safe even after the event has taken place? So that's what I mean by practicing forward thinking. Like, really just kind of think about you and your experience, your sexual experience, like you're a little bird and you want to create the most amazing, like you want to create like the most fucking epic nest, like palace, like the best nest ever for yourself. Like, you want it to be luxurious, you want it to be so pleasurable, you want it to be so relaxed that you can just like roll into it at any time and feel safe and at peace and comfortable and in integrity, knowing that you've got yourself. You know what I mean? It's this kind of attention to detail which really exercises your self-care and your self-love muscles, so that you will again go into these spaces feeling so much more empowered within yourself and your ability to look after yourself. And you'll also sort of have a deeper sense of safety to go deeper and to experience things with other people, because you have taken these measurements, you've communicated your needs if that is a part of it, and you know that you are going to be like safe in your experience. Because a lot of the time when we don't actually set up our environment in this way, it can cause anxiety. And what that means is that you're going to be in your head throughout the experience, which is the last thing that you want to be doing. You want to be fully embodied. You want to be like able to drop in, to enjoy it, to feel all the sensations that come up. You want to be able to like move through everything. You don't want to be like in this like, new and exciting space feeling really anxious in your head because like you don't actually know where you're going afterwards, or like, like what's going to happen, and like, oh no, that's happening over there, I didn't actually want that to happen, and head. Oh, no pleasure whatsoever. No pleasure in that. So really, really just like set that nest up, set it up, get it super luscious for yourself so that you are fully prepared for, what you are experiencing. And of course, like you don't know what's going to happen exactly, but you've got yourself, basically. You've got yourself, and you have spoken to everybody involved around like how you like to be looked after in these situations. And honestly, that kind of communication, number one, is like super hot, you guys. Super hot. I love it. I love hearing people speak up for themselves, speak up for what their needs are, and speak up and stand up for what they need to really enjoy themselves and their sexual expression, because that's all it is. And once you do that, once you take a stand for yourself, like I'm telling you, you are going to feel like $1,000,000, and your confidence is going to be skyrocketing through the roof, and it is going to affect your experience in such a positive way. So forward thinking and establish your non-negotiables. Like, another thing to really keep in mind, like I said earlier, is that when you are in these environments and you're drunk on eros, you're drunk on that erotic energy, because I'm telling you, like, things can get hot, and then all of a sudden you're just like going off on this tangent that you kind of actually didn't really want to do, but you're intoxicated. You are intoxicated, So it's really important to establish this sort of like end of the road, non-negotiable, this is my boundary, and in this particular session, I'm not willing to have it be crossed, and like, yes, of course, like there is, times where you just want to surrender and go with the flow. But actually, if you've established a really strong, no, if you've established a non-negotiable boundary, I really want to encourage you to honor that, no matter how much in the moment you just want to go with the flow. Because like I said before, abundance mindset, there's going to be another occasion. There's going to be another experience. It's not the only orgy or temple party you're going to get exposed to. It's not the only time this opportunity is going to come your way. You know, like there are more opportunities in the sea. And what is more important than pushing yourself into something that you are unsure about is actually honoring your commitments to yourself. Because I'm telling you, you will wake up the next morning, once again, feeling like $1,000,000 because you have got yourself. You know how to trust yourself. You know how to listen to yourself. You know how to respect and honor your own boundaries, even when sometimes it feels like, oh damn, did I really make that boundary fuck? You know, like whatever in the moment. But it's so important to follow through because it's that kind of action. It is that kind of integrity with yourself that is going to honestly shine out of you. It is that level of self-respect and self-love that will create the magnetism for how you want to be treated. Okay? I hope you understand that, but yeah, super duper important. Honor your boundaries, honor your non-negotiables. The next point I want to make is make decisions from your heart. Okay, and I know this kind of might sound really obvious, but you would be surprised. Like, we love to tell ourselves lies. Like humans, why do we do this? Like, I'm guilty of doing it. You know, we make up so many stories in our head to justify the things that we egotistically want to do, but our heart and our soul and our body doesn't want to do it. Our truth doesn't want to do it. But the ego, the mind, is just like, fuck yeah, do it. And like, this is relevant in all areas of life. You know, like how many times do we come across these kind of life decisions and it's like deep down, we know what the answer is. Deep down, you know that it's probably not the best thing. It's not the best decision to go ahead with it. But there's a head component to it. And it's like, well, you know what? I want to do it, so I'm going to do it anyway. And you know what? You just need to shut up down there because I'm just going to do it and like stuff you and it's going to be great. And I'm going to do it. And you do it. And it's all good. And then, you know, the dumb tax eventually comes along because it's like when we ignore our intuition, which is always right, annoyingly always right, when we ignore our intuition, eventually we're going to have to pay the dumb tax for it. And it's the same. So in this particular context, like when, you know, like going into an experience or like learning about your sexual liberation, like, or like, you know, negotiating whether you want to be in a polyamorous or an open relationship or whether you want to have sex or not, you know, like make the decision from your heart, from your soul, from your intuition, from your body. Like really take all the time that you need to drop in, journal. Like, you know, if you need to like literally pause for an hour and just be like, you know what, I need some space to think about this and to really feel about this. And then I'm going to come back to you with like a grounded and clear answer from my heart. Hot. I love that. Take all the space that you need. Again, what is that showing? Self-respect, self-care, self-love. Hot. That shit is hot. And if you are engaging with someone who just like doesn't get you and like is like, what the hell, are you crazy? Then like filter, like that person is automatically voted off the island because clearly like they just don't yet understand or have the like awareness themselves about, you know, self-care and boundaries and all that kind of stuff. And you want to be with someone who knows how to look after themselves, right? So, yeah. Went off on a little tangent, but I'm pretty sure at this stage you are picking up what I'm putting down. Take the space that you need, take all the time that you need to make sure that you are making a decision from your heart and not making a decision out of fear. It's like, oh, if I don't do this, then this person won't like me anymore. Oh, if I don't do this, then, I might not be accepted by my community because like they are all XYZ and actually I'm a little bit of an ABC. Will I still be loved? Will I still belong? Like really make sure that you're actually making choices that are in alignment with your truth, especially when it comes to sexuality, because you know what, when we don't, it can be really, really painful. So yeah. Enough said. I feel like you guys got that. The next point is your sexual expression is perfect just the way it is. And this is just a quick point. There is no template, there is no cookie cutter about what sexual expression looks like for any given person. It is completely different for every single one of us. How you express your femininity is completely up to you. Like some women wear dresses and, have long hair and are very kind of sensual and flowy in a physical way as well as internally. And then like there are other beautiful feminine women who are the complete opposite. Like there is no right or wrong when it comes to what your sexuality and what your sexual liberation should look like, because it is completely unique to you. Okay, so just like, again, don't get caught up in the FOMO. Don't get caught up in the kind of collective normal, and stay true to you. Stay authentic to your heart and just follow the beat of your own drum. And you know what it is. You know what it is. So just do that. Okay. The last point that I want to make, and this is actually a real good one, so if you are still with me, then high five, because I feel like I've saved the best until last. So the last point is about curiosity and leaning in, which is expansion, versus edge pushing and boundary crossing, which equals like pain and suffering. So it's really important to start to understand the difference between those two places. Because when we're talking about sexual growth and, perhaps you're with your partner and you're wanting to try a threesome, but you aren't actually, there's something about it that is actually like you're not quite ready yet. And so the point that I'm trying to make is there's a difference between having a discussion with your partner that you want to have a threesome and you both agree and you're like, yeah, cool, let's do it. And then pushing yourself into an experience, the next weekend when it doesn't actually feel right yet. So sexual expansion can happen really slowly over time. Sometimes the conversation about opening your, intimate relationship to another person is enough for now. That is enough edge pushing. Because, if that's the conversation, that we'll use that conversation as the key example here. Because if you're in a monogamous relationship and, you're kind of going along really steadily, that conversation will shift a lot of energy. There's going to be so many questions that come up. There's going to be so many feelings that come up. Oh, do I want it to be with 2 men or 2 women? What are we going to do with this person before and after? How are we going to meet her? What aftercare? How are we going to make her feel safe? How am I going to feel safe? What are the agreements that we're going to make? Like all of this stuff can come up. And you know what? The expansive part of it at this point might actually just be the conversation. Might actually just be you and your partner opening to this kind of dialogue and navigating together how you're going to make the experience work, and having fun with that and being flirty with that. And perhaps going, let's go on Tinder and swipe some girls together. And then all of a sudden there might be some agreements that you guys make around that platform, like how much time we're going to spend on Tinder and who's going to be having the conversation. And, just take every step one step at a time. And, you don't have to go from 0 to 100 in, a week's time to be successful in that expansion. It's a slow process, and just know that, just know that it's about being curious and leaning into the edge. So it's like you've got the cliff, right? And you're curious about what's over the cliff because it kind of feels exciting and like sexy, and you're like, oh, like this, oh, that's like a little bit of an edge push, and I'm like all the adrenaline, and like, oh damn, I'm like kind of like challenging myself a little bit here. But you don't have to jump off that cliff. You don't have to jump off it to like get the rewards. The magic is in actually just like slowly edging towards the cliff, and then, oh, I can't jump over this. I need a harness. I'm going to go and get that and then come back to the cliff. Then, oh, actually I need like a rope, and then go get that and come back. And then, oh, I need a climbing buddy. And then like doing it slowly and taking it step by step and leaning into your edge so that when you do go over the cliff, you're buckled in, you're safe. You know what you're going to do when you get down to the bottom. And, it's been a collaborative experience between you and another person and however many other people are going to be involved. Do you know what I mean by that? It's the expansion that happens over time and just biting off little pieces and knowing that you don't actually need to push yourself over the edge in a way that feels uncomfortable to get there. Take your time and go at your own pace, and just know that, when you feel like you might be getting too close to that cliff's edge, when you feel, oh, you know what, like I feel like I'm going to fall over this cliff. Can we just take this back a couple of meters so that I can catch my breath and regroup and like make another plan for getting down the cliff? Like you can always do that, because again, abundance. Plenty more opportunities in the sea, plenty of cliffs in the world to abseil down, plenty of people to help you out while you're doing that. Okay, so just yes, your journey to sexual liberation is yours, and own it for yourself, and always be sure to be in alignment with your truth, which is like such a fucking like cliche buzzwordy thing to say, but it's so true. It's just so true. It's like always just come back to self, take as much time as you need, journal, meditate, experiment, and talk to other people. Talk to me. I have people messaging me all the time about this stuff. So if you're feeling a little bit confused or so on, just like ping me a message, I'm totally happy to receive stuff like that. All right, people, this has been a long episode. I definitely didn't expect for it to be this long. I hope you enjoyed. As always, I love hearing feedback. Please, please, please let me know what you thought of this episode. If you've got any suggestions of things that you'd like me to talk about, I am an open book, so don't be afraid to reach out. Have a beautiful, beautiful day, evening, whatever you're doing, and I'll be back with another episode soon. If you enjoyed this episode, hit like and subscribe, or share it with someone who you feel could benefit from hearing it too. My mission is to bring healthy sexuality to the mainstream, so be sure to leave your 5-star review on your favorite podcasting app, because that way this content can land in the ears of those who need it the most. If you're looking for more resources on how to live a turned-on life, check out my website at www.laura-allen.com, where you'll find events, coursework, free downloadable workbooks, as well as my coaching packages. And lastly, I want to thank you for taking the time to prioritize yourself in this exquisite way, because when we do, that's when we can really start to show up for the rest of the world. And until next time, thank you so much for listening, and I'll be back with another episode soon.